Good afternoon, this is Cloud Chartist with my weekly Ichimoku wrap-up for the week ending, let's see, when did it end? The June 26th. So let's start off with crude, as I usually do. We have CL on the weekly chart. This is the continuous contract we're looking at right now. So crude has been doing this. You can see my crosshairs here. Doji, 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 doji. Like for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Basically 10 weeks in a row, crude has just been putting in sideways dojis. Overall, the chart is bearish. Price action is under the cloud. But the fact that we're holding the Tenkan Sen here shows sideways to bullish progress. And once again, last week put in an almost identical candle to the week prior to that, but it did close above the Tenkan Sen, so that's significant. So the prognosis is sideways with support at the Tenkan Sen at 59.33. And resistance is pretty high above at this point. Resistance is up in the 71 area because the cloud is going to resist up there. As I keep mentioning, if we do get an upward move, the Chikou span, this red line over here to the left, will find resistance at the Tenkan Sen above. So we're looking at that happening in the $65 region, so that will cause resistance prior to the price actually hitting the cloud. If we do lose the Tenkan Sen, then we can expect the flat Kijun Sen below to potentially attract price. If that does happen, however, we do have the candles over here on the left underneath the Chikou that could come into play, offering support to the Chikou and preventing price action from being able to sell as far down as the Kijun Sen below at 52.50. So that's about it for crude on the weekly time frame anyway. Of course, it's been sort of interesting on shorter time frames, but we're talking about the weekly right now. So let's look at the ES. Let's attempt to look at the ES. So on the ES, last week closed at 20.95.50, which is exactly on the Tenkan Sen. So we held the support of the Tenkan Sen last week. So overall, this chart is extremely bullish. The Tenkan Sen and the Kijun Sen are both going flat, suggesting sideways price action, but overall the chart is bullish. So bullish to sideways. If we lose this area that we closed on, the 20.95 area, then look for a potential move that could go down all the way to 20.52.13. But until we do that, I would not get excited to short this market. Even though everybody thinks it's going to crash, we need a little bit more evidence that there's some kind of bearishness in this market before we can get excited about calling the top. All right, let's look at the Russell. Russell looking very bullish, putting in a new high last week and closing as a doji candle, closing off the lows, but a red candle nonetheless, but closing above the close of the last week's candle, so uptrend fully intact. We have the Tenkan Sen and the Kijun Sen both pointing up, and we have a rising cloud underneath. So despite price being a little bit extended over the Tenkan Sen, the Kijun Sen, and the cloud, and there being a flat cloud down below here, the Russell is fully bullish. If we do get a pullback, look at 1249.70 to hold. Look at the NASDAQ. NASDAQ looking less bullish than the Russell relatively, looking more sideways. Lots of sideways consolidation. We did see some significant selling. Netflix got hammered after announcing a stock split, and then Carl Icahn announcing his divestment. Everyone seemed to want to jump on board with that. Of course, Netflix has been looking extremely overvalued for a while, so wasn't a real surprise there. But so sideways is my prognosis and the Ichimoku prognosis for the NASDAQ, although technically we are still in an uptrend, as we did make a higher high and a lower, and a higher low. We are still over the Tenkan-sen. If we do sell off, we can look for 44. Let's see, 44, 44. Wow, that's pretty impressive as the Tenkan-sen to hold. Let's look at gold. Gold is still bearish under the cloud, just chopping around sideways. Last week put in a close over the Tenkan-sen, and then we got a significant reversal down, but found support at the prior recent lows, 1169 area, 1170 area, and closed slightly off the lows, but overall bearish on gold. We'll look at silver. Pardon my fibs. Silver's just been chopping around sideways, came down last week and closed significantly off the lows after putting in that really strange spike that happened in the middle of Europe on Thursday, I want to say. That was pretty weird. And but anyway, still chopping around under the under 16. So bearish. The Tenkan-sen above here, this blue line, is now pointing down. So if for some reason we do get buying momentum to the upside, which is possible after this big spike, you see after we put in a similar big spike type, bottom type spike, we did get some buying. If we do get some buying, we can look for 1662 above to resist with silver. But no way I would get bullish about silver here. We do, however, note that the Chikou over here, this red line representing price action, time shifted 26 periods into the past, we do have the Chikou coming into the Tenkan-sen support here. So this area could hold, and we could go higher. We'll see what happens on silver. I'm just looking basically for sideways action. Like, I wouldn't be surprised to see another doji type candle being put in, or maybe maybe something like this, but the opposite, like a hammer. But who knows? We'll see. Don't really feel like making any fantastic guesses, because that's all really what would be. We should look at copper, because I haven't looked at copper, and I heard people talking about copper last week. I personally don't trade copper. I also don't consider it to be quote unquote Dr. Copper. I don't consider it to be a good indicator of the broader markets. I happen to have a friend who was a copper trader for over 30 years, and he told me to never get long copper. So on his advice, I just don't even bother trading it, but I'll look at it for you guys for now, as it did put in a tweezer type bottoms, although very small tweezers. It could head up and come in contact with the Kijun-sen again at 2.6875, but overall it's bearish under the cloud. If it does for some reason get over 2.6875, look for 2.757, the flat Tenkan-sen above, to resist. That was yucky. Alright, let's look at corn. The grain's been having some bullish times lately with all the rain. My mom has a house in Indiana and has been telling me that all her farmer friends have been talking about their crops getting flooded, and rain and soybeans in particular are not doing so well, having to be replanted, etc., etc. So we got a very bullish up move on corn last week. I actually partook in a little bit of that action myself. I haven't traded corn recently, but I used to trade it quite a lot, like back in the day. Let's look back in the day for fun. I'll have to bear with me for a moment. I was trading corn during this beautiful time in history. Right here. That was just like shooting fish in a barrel. See where I'm at over here on the left-hand side of the screen, this crazy up move. So, well, right before it made its high at 8:49, then the party ended, and then it became super annoying to trade for a long time, and I just quit. Which is too bad because I missed some really nice down moves. Anyway, let's go to the present time because you don't really care about my past trading history. And so what are we going to do now? Are we going to continue to buy corn? Well, as long as corn holds the cloud, it is neutral in price in Ichimoku terms. We do have the Kijun-sen here. Let me zoom in a little bit more so you can see. We have the Kijun-sen at 381.88. So if we do get some selling, we could come down and find support at 381.88. We don't really want to see it go below 381.88. It does have, next week it will have, or this upcoming week, we'll have some support down in the cloud down until 377.85 or thereabouts. But if it goes lower than that, we're in danger of coming down to the Tenkan-sen, which is currently at 368.38, but could open higher than that after this bullish momentum. I wouldn't be surprised to see the Tenkan-sen open higher, maybe around 372, but that's just a guess. Let's look at soybeans too. As you can see by all my trend lines, I used to trade soybeans back in that time period. So soybeans also put in a bullish move, but not nearly as bullish as corn. And we did have a significant topping tail on last week's candle for soybeans. So if we do get some additional selling, we can look at 994.38, the Kijun-sen, to offer support. And then the Tenkan-sen, which is currently at 972.50 below, which could open higher because of this candle's bullishness. Could open a little bit higher and then offer support at that higher level. Let's look at the Treasury complex. I'm noticing I have my platform open on my trading computer, my other computer, not the one that I'm charting on for you right now. I'm noticing that it looks like if we can believe the bid and the ask, we're going to have a significant gap up for the Treasury complex. I have, I mean, who knows? It's getting pretty close to open, so we don't know whether we can take that seriously or not, but it looks like price action is way higher on pre-open, but we'll see what happens. Anyway, so the 30-year Treasury bond, ZB, sold off significantly with the Bund last week, and was beautiful short if you were so inclined to short it. But overall, the chart is still bullish, and some factors that we have in play. Even though we did close pretty near the lows on ZB last week, so we could continue to sell and potentially find support at the cloud, which would be around 142.16ish. But we also have the Chikou span, which could come in, find support at the candles here. So that would be around 145.22, 23 area. So we might not get a lot more downside for the 30-year, but we shall see. There's nothing really significant to suggest a reversal to the upside as of yet. We're still in a downtrend. I was trading ZB and ZN quite a lot last week, and I noticed that the 10-year was holding up more strongly, seemingly, than the 30-year. So keep that in mind as far as relative strengths goes. So on the weekly chart, the ZN looks just as bearish as ZB. After finding resistance at the cloud last week, I suggested it was a short based on that, and indeed it was a extremely beautiful short. It wasn't as extremely beautiful as it looks here during intra-week. In fact, we did a lot of chopping around for several days in the exact same price range, which was quite annoying if you are trying to trade it. But overall, we put in a really nice down move. If you look over here to the left, the Chikou span is inside the cloud, so it did not find support at the top of the cloud, but it is anywhere inside the cloud is support, so it is in support technically, and it will continue to have support all the way down to 124.23. If we do lose 124.23, I would be definitely looking for lower prices on the ZN, the 10-year. Let's look at the dollar. Dollar is still overall bullish. In fact, the fact that it put in a close over the Tenkan-sen is significant with a little topping tail. So sideways, it looks like a triangle type pattern to me with a smaller range. Could even have a smaller range once again this week. But we do have underneath here the Tenkan-sen and the Kijun-sen making a bear cross. So it's important to see where we are in relationship to both of the Tenkan-sen and the Kijun-sen once price reopens. If we are below those levels, whatever they will be at then, they could act as resistance and cause problems for price going higher. Looks like we're going to get a decent sized move in either direction once this pattern resolves, so we'll see what happens. Let's look at the Nikkei. Nikkei extremely bullish, putting in a new high at 20,990. Japan is just rocking. We are getting overextended. You see we've been redlining on the RSI for a while. This was an extremely beautiful pullback to breakout pattern I mentioned last week. Testing just above the Tenkan-sen and then getting a tipped up Tenkan-sen. This is just a beautiful buy pattern. So I hope some of you were able to take advantage of that. I don't really know too many Nikkei traders besides myself, and I unfortunately did not take advantage of it. Let's look at the euro, and then I think I will wrap it up, because I know that I'm being a little bit long-winded. So the euro, this is the 60, the futures contract for the euro, came down, found support at the Tenkan-sen, and closed slightly off the lows. So look for the rising Tenkan-sen to continue to support the euro moving higher. If it loses the Tenkan-sen, then it could, drop significantly. But it looks like it will continue to hold the Tenkan-sen and potentially have a bull cross of the Tenkan-sen over the Kijun-sen. And if we get some resolution to the Greece situation, then who knows what could happen. All right, well, it's getting near the open. And I'm going to wrap it up for now and get this posted. I will be offering a 4th of July special for my chat room. So if you are interested in that, well, if you're watching this, you probably will find out about it. I'll be posting about it to my mailing list, to my Twitter feed, to etc. So stay tuned. And if you have any questions, or you can always contact me on Twitter, at Chartist, or by Gmail, cloudchartist@gmail.com, or visit my website at cloudchartist.com. Thanks for watching, and good luck trading this week.